Welcome to First Page Fridays. I'm April Dávila for Sit Right Here, and today we're going to look at somebody's first page. Usually it's a novel, but I don't really know. I haven't even looked at it yet. I'm going to read it through with the same kind of eye that an agent or an editor would look at, like a publishing editor would look at it, ask the questions that they might ask, and then I'm going to go through and actually edit it as if I was working with a client's manuscript. So here we go. I'm going to shrink myself down. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and like and subscribe. And if you would like to send in your first page, check out the link in the show notes here. Send yours in and we'll put it in the queue. All right, let's get started. We've got a title here, Viva California, Chapter 1, so presumably a novel. Michael, December 1844. So let's see, if we're in California, this is a very interesting time. Okay, Star of the West plowed the waves off the coast of Alta California as Michael Ryan, dangling aloft, hooked into the foremost gant line. A rag held back his dark curls, and a bucket of steaming hot pine tar hung from his thick weathered belt. As he coated the line with the fragrant sealant, he pictured the lofty green trees that produced it. Green trees. Sure, the blue of the sea was glorious, but it was the green of Limerick's meadows that held his heart. Although thankful he was to be breathing the scent of the pine tar, and not the stench coming from the breeze from some little isle piled high with guano the seabirds had left. He looked down to the deck. How far up was he? He had known he would continue risking his neck this way. Had he known he would continue risking his neck this way, he would have given up keeping watch over that spalpeen. And forgive me, I'm not a sailor, I don't know the words, but I'm doing my best here. Keeping watch over that spalpeen of a brother. Oh, that's not even a sailing term. I don't know what that means. That spalpeen of a brother, and established himself where they had first landed, ironically near Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. But no, dear brother had to sign on for more adventure, and didn't Michael have to join him, only to have the younger tinker slip away? Ah, ma'am, sure I tried to keep an eye on him. He paused for a moment and looked out to sea, experiencing a sense of expanding. A sudden swell jolted him back into his head. He looked at the bucket of tar. Fumes? No, he'd experienced the sensation before with no cause he could identify. He looked out again. It must be the immense space that gives one, what? A glimpse into infinity. That sense of peace and joy, a feeling that one could see all the way to China. China! Billy was probably in China by now. Okay. I will also say our system tends to take out carriage returns, so I probably wasn't a solid block of text when it was sent to us. I'll try to put those in where I would estimate them. In general, love this. First of all, I love the setting. I love California history, so I'm a sucker right from the start. But we also get some really good details. It gives us time, right off the bat, December 1844. Some people call that a cheat. I think on the first page, be clear, clarity above all else, right? You're trying to bring people into a story. There's no room for confusion or ambiguity. So we get the date. We get Star of the West, that is the name of this boat, plowed the waves. I love that. Plowed the waves off the coast of Alta California as Michael Ryan, dangling aloft, I think there's a comma necessary here, hooked into the foremost gant line. A rag held back his dark curls. Love that. Great opportunity to give us a little bit of details. So he's got dark curls, and a bucket of steaming hot pine tar hung from his thick weathered belt. He coated the line with a fragrant sealant. As he coated the line with a fragrant sealant, he pictured the lofty green trees that produced it. Green trees. Sure, the blue of the sea was glorious, but it was the green of Limerick's meadows that held his heart. So I think Limerick is an Irish town, if I'm showing my geographical ignorance here. But this is a great detail, right? Starting to give us some detail of where this character is coming from. Although I'm just going to take a guess here and put a new paragraph in. Although thankful he was to be breathing the scent of the pine tar and not the stench coming on the breeze from some little isle piled high with guano the seabirds had left. This is an awkward sentence. Although thankful he was to be breathing, I would just say he was thankful. Let's just keep it simple. He was thankful to be breathing the scent of the pine tar and not the stench let's just say of some little isle piled high with, I like isle piled high with guano the seabirds had left. So he's thankful to be on the water. He looked down to the deck. How far up was he? Had he known he would continue risking his neck this way? I don't know if you need this question. And furthermore, I'm kind of, I feel like, especially in the opening pages, questions have their place in fiction, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I feel like, especially as we're leading readers into our story, they're looking for us to answer questions. So he looked down at the deck. Had he known he would continue risking his neck this way, he would have given up keeping watch over that spalpeen. I have to look up spalpeen. Hold on. All right. An Irish English word that translates to rascal, scamp. This is definitely going into my nerd words. So writers, thank you. Watch on social media. You will see this one come up. And given that he's Irish, this is actually, I mean, this is great. It definitely is a nod at his Irish background. So forgive my ignorance. Definitely keep this word. He would have given up keeping watch over that spalpeen of a brother and established himself where they had first landed, ironically near Philadelphia. Okay, so had he known he would continue risking his neck this way, he would have, I think there's a little bit of ownership missing here. Had he known he would have to continue risking his neck this way, and then there's some sort of, had he known he would continue, has an ownership to it that it doesn't quite jive with him blaming his brother. And so a subtle change here. Had he known he would have to continue risking his neck this way, he would have, okay, and then we've got kind of a duplicative, would have, let me think on this. Okay, had he known, I wonder if you could just say, he looked down at the deck, he should have, okay, forgive me, dear author. I'm going to just jump in here and hack at it. It's your story. You have to make the choices that are right for you. But I'm just going to make a suggestion here. He should have let that sapling of a brother run off on his own and stayed where they had first landed. Or you know what, you could even, you could, and established himself. Yeah, let's keep that. Okay. And okay, he should have let that spalpeen of a brother run off on his own and established himself where they had first landed, ironically near Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. But no, dear brother had to sign on for more adventure. And didn't Michael have to join him, only to have the young tinker slip away? I think there's some opportunity here for a little more detail. I assume that you will tell us more about this as the story goes along, but what does it mean to slip away? Like, was he intentionally ditching his brother? Was he lured by love or money? I feel like just like a little half a sentence more here would help land the brother character a little bit, like just giving us a little bit more of a hint. Like, is he a guy who's distracted by the ladies? Is he all about the gold? Was he really just looking to ditch his brother from the start? Like, just a tiny little bit, if you could, in there, I think would go a long way. And we did take out like half a sentence up here, so you have room in terms of it still fitting on the first page. Oh man, I'm sure I tried to keep an eye on him. He paused for a moment and looked out. And this seems like it's one of those, like, he's rehearsing something he might say, like to mom. Ah, man, sure, I tried to keep an eye on him. But it feels kind of out of place. Yeah, I think I would cut this. And I would use this space here to give us that half a sentence more of like, what does it mean that he slipped away? And then I would come back to, since we were talking about the brother, I would come back to Michael. Michael paused for a moment and looked out to sea, experiencing a sense of expanding. A sudden swell jolted. So swells don't jolt. I wonder, I know if you're like way up on the mast, it's going to feel exaggerated in terms of a swell, but like it's not a jolt. So a sudden swell, and are swells sudden? I think a large swell. Rocked him back into his head. That's a little awkward. A large swell caused him to hold tight and brought him back into his head. Something like that. He looked at the bucket of tar fumes. No, he'd experienced the sensation before. And I like this. I like that it kind of hints at, because you might think that being out, I've been on boats where you can't see land, and it definitely has this sense. But the fact that you say it 3 times, like expanding, in my mind, it becomes this kind of supernatural. And I think that's kind of exactly what you were going for when he's like, is it the fumes? And then, no, he'd experienced the sensation before with no cause he could identify. This is a fun little bit of mystery of like, there's something going on in this guy's head even. Is he unwell? But it doesn't track as unwell. It tracks more as like something maybe a little magical or mysterious. He looked out again. It must be the immense space that gives one what? A glimpse into infinity, that sense of peace and joy, a feeling that one could see all the way to China. Again, with the questions, I wonder what would it be like to just say, gives one a feeling that they could see all the way to China. China. Billy was probably in China by now. And is this the first we get of the brother's name? I wonder if you could get that a little sooner. He should have let that sapling of a brother run off on his own and established. I wonder, he should have let Billy, that spalpeen of a brother. You could put that here, Nilly. I put Nilly. Sorry, that is not right. Okay, Billy, that spalpeen of a brother, run off on his own and established himself where they had first landed, ironically near Philadelphia. But no, dear brother, this pronoun still has potential to be a little confusing, even though grammatically it's correct. So I might want to look at that. Let's come back up to the top and read the whole thing through. All right, December 1844. Star of the West plowed the waves off the coast of Alta California as Michael Ryan, dangling aloft, hooked into the foremost scant line. A rag held back his dark curls, and a bucket of steaming hot pine tar hung from his thick weathered belt. As he coated the line with the fragrant sealant, he pictured the lofty green trees that produced it. I don't know if you need green trees. I'll just let the thought of the lofty green trees. Sure, the blue of the sea was glorious, but it was the green of Limerick's meadows that held his heart. He was thankful to be breathing. So this is, the subtle things that this does is, again, telling us about him, those dark curls, the hint at Ireland, his missing, the thing that he's been on the sea for a while. Clearly, if he's up doing this work, he's no stranger. He's not new on board. He's not a paying passenger. You actually get a lot of information in this first paragraph. He was thankful to be breathing the scent of the pine tar and not the stench of some little isle piled high with guano the seabirds had left. And again, we're learning more. Like they've been out for a while. Clearly, he looked down to the deck. He should have let Billy, that spalpeen of a brother, run off on his own and establish himself where they'd first landed, ironically near Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. But no, dear brother had to sign on for more adventure, and didn't Michael have to join him, only to have the young tinker slip away? Yeah, again, I want to know more, because if he slipped away when they were not, presumably he slipped away when they were not on a boat, right? Because how does one slip away if you're on a boat? And so if he slipped away while they were not on a boat, why did Michael have to join him? Because if they were on land, Michael could have just been like, all right, I guess I'm staying here, and he could have settled in. So this edges a little bit. There's 2 types of question we want to have on the first page. There's the type of question that leads the reader in and makes them want more. And there's the type of question that can irritate because it just feels like missing information. And so we're right on the edge of it just feels like missing information. You could let it slide, but I think you could really easily nudge it into that realm of, oh, I'm curious and want to know more. by giving us just the tiniest bit more information right here. Michael paused for a moment and looked out to sea, experiencing a sense of expanding, expanding, expanding. You could also, I wonder, rather than repeating the word, I wonder if a second sentence really describing the experience. So I'm going to take a crack at it. Forgive me. Again, these are suggestions. I don't mean to like tell you how to write your story. I'm just making a suggestion, because particularly with repeating words, you're kind of just giving the same information versus like if we said a sense of expanding, his vision seemed to pull at the edges, and he had a sensation of floating, untethered over the water. I don't know, something like, actually tell us what the experience is. Give us the specifics, especially since this seems like something that will probably come up again. Go ahead and give us a little bit of it. A large swell caused him to hold tight and brought him back into his head. I wonder if you could even have a large swell cause him to lose his footing. Lose his footing. And scramble to hold fast to the lines, bringing him back into his head. You know, a few of those details of where he's actually in. He looked at the bucket of tar. Fumes? No, he'd experienced the sensation before with no cause he could identify. He looked out again. It must be the immense space that gives one a feeling that one could see all the way to China. China. Billy was probably in China by now. Yeah, I love a seafaring journey. I would definitely turn the page on this one. I would want to keep reading. I also, you have such an adventure. You have these guys, brothers, from Limerick to Philadelphia, where they are separated in some mysterious way. Now, one of them is off the coast of California, and the other could be all the way in China for all he knows. This is undoubtedly a great adventure, and I love a good adventure story, so I would keep reading. And I'm trying to think what else I would suggest, but I think in general, once you can build out this just the tiniest, but just give us a hint to what happens there, I think you've got a complete winner of a first page here. So thank you, dear author, so much for sharing your page. If this was not your page and you would like to send yours in, just click the link below and send yours in, and we'll put it in the queue. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Take care. Happy Friday.